Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to A Better Black America TV. Welcome to A Better Black America Talk radio show. And I can't believe it. You know, I saw the headline and I had to do a special edition today. It's the 10th and today is Monday. And I got to let y'all know that the Democrats folded. The Schumer shutdown, will be over soon without Chuck Schumer participating in the vote. Because last night they did a test vote on the Senate floor. And they passed a clear resolution with some concessions. Some concessions, not no Affordable Care Act, not no monies or anything, no agreement. Just some small, minute concessions. And it passed in a test vote 60-40 in the House. So they got a little more than they bargained for because you need 60 votes, in the Senate. And I believe a couple independents and a few Democrats. And the purpose of me having this conversation today or this radio broadcast is because the Schumer shutdown is a scam, and these elected officials have committed career suicide, and it is at the point of no return. And I got to let you know, in regards of Black America as a special ambassador or a special assistant to the Trump administration, Black Americans have signed their divorce papers, and the divorce is final with the Democratic Party. The Black race will never, ever, ever be a branch of the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not speaking for the NAACP. I'm not speaking for the Urban League. I'm not speaking for the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm speaking for Black America. And the plan is to move on and let it die where it stands. And that means the Democratic Party, because the Black Americans have truly understand what's really going on, because Black America has accepted the truth, and they really understand and know that the parties didn't switch, the peoples did. Because when you talk to an uneducated individual and you educate that individual and you let them know who was the party of slavery, who was the party of Jim Crow, who was the party of whites only and hanging and lynching, and who created the Democratic Party. And when you tell them the truth in terms of that Black Americans was voting Republican all the way up to JFK, they don't really even understand that. And then when you educate them even further and let them know that, blacks created the Texas Republican Party, and the A&M, agricultural management, was implemented by a Black Republican, and the first Black senators was out of North and South Carolina post Civil War. So the parties didn't switch, the people did. And I can respect, a white Republican that's just paying homage to their Southern ancestry, just like Black America have to pay homage to our slave ancestry. And this is why we must declare independence. And this is why compensation has to come with that, because knowledge is power. And now we finally know why they unalived or why they killed Charlie Kirk. They unalived and or killed Charlie Kirk because they wanted to get rid of the young conservative so they can hand you and deliver you your leader. And that's a 36-year-old communist, socialist, Marxist Muslim by the name of Mamdani in the state of New York City. That man lied through his teeth. So we're going to wait and see. Free busing, free housing. He's going to punish the homeowners. He's going to punish these billionaires. But soon as he was elected, he took a picture with one of the richest, billionaire heiress, in the history of the world. And that's George Soros' son. So that's a billionaire. So now Black America is sitting back and saying, y'all got to have a fair one. Y'all got to go at it amongst each other. We're not finna just sit back and be collateral damage or help you. Because if you really look at what's going on with this Proposition 50, which is the Democrats' answer, to cheating. And a lot of blacks voted for it, but don't realize the ins and outs, because Black Americans or African Americans never pay attention to the details because of what we call post-traumatic slave syndrome. And in this post-traumatic slave syndrome, these individuals, just allow them to just tell them what to do, and they just do it. No different than some flies flying to the light and just killing themselves because they just are attracted to light, and there's nothing that they can do about it. But one thing I got to let you know, as a human being born again, as a Christ, we have choices and we have options. So when a black man tell you, you have to pick a side, that is what we call a slave mentality. And you guys are nothing but slaves, metaphorically. Okay. Now, we get compensation as sharecroppers because a lot of us, we got to go to work every day. If we're late, we can't call off and all of that. So that's just think about it, because they raised the generation for us to be cerebral, to be smart. But now they're indoctrinating our children. You got lesbian, transgenders teaching children, about the pronouns instead of saying boy and girl and they. And how is this that they are indoctrinating our children? Because if you stop reproduction, then you are putting yourself from a future perspective in a position of power, in a position of authority. And this is why the Divine Nine is suspect when it comes to the politics, because the Divine Nine are the top black people. And when top black people, listen to what I'm saying, when top black people protect top white people, then there is no race. And this is why our races are grace. This is why we're creating an independent body. And just to let you know, I got a rough draft of the Unaffordable Care Act repeal and replacement, and I'll be sharing that this week. So make sure you hit the like, hit the notification, hit the subscription, because the truth shall make us free and God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. Now, how do you feel? Put it in the comments. How do you feel about having a 36-year-old communist, socialist, Muslim, Marxist as the mayor of New York City? How did this happen? Some people in high places put some big money behind it. That's how it happened. Just how Proposition 50 passed in the state of California. They brought out all the guns. Obama, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Padilla. They brought out all the heavyweights. And even, the individual who funded the Trump impeachment campaign, Tom Stroyer, he basically put out a commercial and he basically got you to get up all in your feelings, all in your emotions, talking about, if you want to stop Donald Trump, Donald Trump, you got to stop Donald Trump. And the last time that I checked, it's not flesh and blood. It's powers, principalities, evildoers in high places. And if you hate Donald Trump, you hate yourself. And if you hate yourself, that means you hate me. So this is why, I am preaching and teaching sanctification, meaning separation from either of the two sides. This what we would call a duopoly. Okay. This construct. Okay. And this is why we're declaring our independence. So now that we are not on the hot seat, the Democratic Party is in the defense. They got to put on the defense. They've been prosecuted by the Republicans because they are in control, and we'll just sit back, and give them instructions as the judge, and give the people the instructions, who are the jury. And we'll just sit back and see how this thing plays out, because the divorce is final with the Democratic Party when it comes to Black America. Now, you can have the African American, meaning you can have the individuals who, race traded and they're after their pronouns and, they're low vibration, they in the crab bucket, because, when I do a lot of, streaming or post, the only individuals that have nerve to say something are, bots, meaning faceless Facebook, Instagram pages, just join Facebook or Instagram or YouTube within the last 2 or 3 days, or somebody that knows me personally. And if you know me personally, you really don't know me. Okay. Because I'm not going to get on this, these platforms and speak, about things that I have not studied, that I have not researched, or that I not have gotten the green light, because the power comes from up, top down. So the top is giving me the green light to share these things. And the crazy thing about it, they're not even sharing certain things with the Democratic Party. Can you believe that? The Democratic Party has no clue about the repeal and replacement of the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, also known as Hillary Care. And if you did not know, you bourgeoisie scholars, if you did not know, back in 1993, when Hillary Clinton was the first lady, she introduced the Affordable Care Act, and it was called Hillary Care. And Obama took the same blueprint and created Obamacare. And now that we see the Affordable Care Act is not affordable at all. It's very expensive. It's always been expensive. So now it's time for the repeal and the replacement. And the joke is on the Democratic elected officials because they have no clue. They're sitting here trying to gaslight the American people and sell us on, instead of voting for a clean CR, meaning keep the government open, meaning to pay our air traffic controllers, to pay our federal workers, to make sure SNAP and WIC and everything is funded. And then they want to blame it on some Republicans when that is a bald-faced lie. It is official that this is the Schumer shutdown, because last night I watched the vote. It was 60-40 in the Senate. And Chuck Schumer went out and read something, and said, this is why I will not be voting for. Okay, all I'm saying is whoever wrote that speech for Chuck, that's who runs and owns Chuck. Okay. And Nancy Pelosi is retiring. Why? Why is she retiring? Okay. Why? Because the party is over. The party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of mass incarceration, the party of the 94 crime bill. And when people sit back and say the party switched, that's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. If somebody committed a crime and got a conviction of life in prison, that person could change his life. Okay, that person could be born again, but that person can't switch into being something else. And I totally understand why white Democrats left the party, because they appear to invest in the newly freed slave or the Negroes. But that was a play, because somehow, some way, these Christian blacks have basically been played by these the Jewish community as well as the communist movement. So when you got communist and Jewish, and when you got Jewish versus Muslim, where does the black man fit in that equation? So that let us know right there that it was never, ever, ever, ever about us. And I'm on record to let you know that civil rights was specifically for Black America. It's crazy how you could just get here a year ago and get resources and get everything. But what happened to the promises, during the civil rights era? Oh, the assassin's bullet. Okay. And a lot of these entities, rely on the assassin's bullet because, like I said, they got rid of Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to tell you, because I listened to a lot what he had to say. Okay. And it sounds like something that I would say. It's the facts. Okay. Because I believe God gave us Charlie Kirk. Okay. And the devil gave us the mayor of New York City. So go ahead and, rock with this guy. And every day these lies are going to come out. And one thing that I do know, you guys have seen the movie Trading Places, right? Trading Places. You see the bet between the brothers when they basically took a bet if they can actually find somebody else to run the company and to have the same success as this Harvard elitist graduate or this individual that's a part of the Freemasons and all of that. And come to find out that the bet was won. Okay, because that individual was able to do exactly what this scholar or this Harvard graduate did from the financial industry off the streets. And the character was played by Eddie Murphy. So now they are doing the same thing, with the mayor of New York. I've seen one of the individuals who, runs a Fortune 500 company. He's in the top 10 richest men, and his organization is one of the top organizations in the world. And they asked him at an investment summit, so how do you feel about New York having a mayor that's claims to be a socialist and a Marxist and a communist? And the gentleman laughed. He said, you know what? Every 20 years we should, experiment with socialism just to see, how the people react to it. And he's already elected, and, they're already reacting or responding negatively, and but we'll be fine. And laughed about it. I said, wow, this wasn't nothing but a joke. Nothing but a joke. So now there's going to be in the midterm election, because this year was special elections. Okay. So the midterm election will be in 2026, and they're forecasting that there are going to be 15 to 18 independents running not as Republicans, not as Democrats, but these independents are formally known as Democrats. So these independents that's popping up are, not woke Democrats, but Democrats that have awakened and have embraced and accepted the truth for what it is, because lies and deceit have an expiration date, and you can't lie, to the people forever. But the truth shall make us free, and the truth goes on a very, very, very long way. Now, it's official. They have folded. Okay, they have folded. It's clear. The Democrats want to talk. And I'm saying is, why fold now when you already affected the American people? What was the purpose? What was the issue? You thought the Republicans was going to fold when they are in power, when they control the House and the Senate? Okay, but you do know that in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes, and there are only a small majority of Republicans, which is 53, meaning they have to have 7 individuals vote with them to get the 60. And they got an independent and 6 Democrats last night to side, with opening the government. So this week they're going to, put the framework together, and they're going to have to take it to the Congress floor. And then the Senate has to do its vote, and then the Trump have to sign off on it. But one thing that I truly believe as a reason as to why they folded, because the threat of canceling out the filibuster. Okay, because if they get rid of the filibuster, from a legislative perspective, they only need 50 votes in the Senate. And that means anything that Trump puts on the table only needs 50 votes. And that means that they will basically checkmate, close out. The Democratic Party will never exist. It's surviving because it's investing in the immigrants, and it's investing in the poor SNAP recipients, and, fear mongering and all of that. But if that was to happen, that would have been, lights out. And as a independent, personally, as a special assistant to the Trump administration, I'm pushing for canceling out the filibuster. And I'm also pushing for the documentation that has been given to me in the repeal and replacement of Obamacare, because I have the paperwork. And it's crazy how these high-priced elected officials are clueless to what it is. So when I, just pop out and show them what time it is and present this to the American people, you guys are going to have to help out. You guys are going to have to share the information, because the algorithm and all that, you got to share it. It's called engagement. So if we can engage and have this conversation of this particular healthcare plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, this is the plan that would actually change the face of the medical industry as a whole. And the only way we can do this is if we work together as human beings. Okay. Because the Democratic Party has sold its soul to the point of no return. The divorce is final when it comes to Black America. You can have the African Americans. You can have all of that, because we do not want to be a guilty by association, by no stretch of the imagination. Because we're going to continue to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God, because this is the promised land. Heaven is here on earth. This is the promised land, because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And this is a place where they have brought us against our will. And this is the promised land, because when you have Arabs and Muslims in the same particular political party seem to be working together. And I'm saying is, if you don't know the history, it will repeat itself. So so who was guilty of 9/11? Think about that. So now we got people that's, share the same religion as the people who was charged with the 9/11 running the same city. So now it's the beast from within. And the baby boomers was the Trojan horse that brought all of this in. Under the baby boomers' watch, we've lost the party. We've changed from being black and proud from a Black American perspective to an ethnicity meaning African American, because my birth certificate say Negro. So they put us in a melting pot with the LBGTQ, elemental P, and the LBGTQ means the lesbians. There's white lesbians. So there's white females from the feminist movement. The G stands for gay. There's white men, that's gay. So you still have individuals that's protecting white supremacy. And then the black church sold its soul, because the NAACP, the Urban League, and all that is nothing but a branch of the Democratic Party. And when they were promoting the Proposition 50, when I saw that, it hurt my soul to the core to see politicians in the pulpit talking to baby boomers. And I'm telling you right now, that is what we call elderly abuse, because our baby boomers suffer from what we call post-traumatic stress syndrome. And it is what it is. So now we got an opportunity to figure it out. Now we can focus on what we need to focus on. And that's basically the negotiation in terms of compensation, in the form of alimony, because this divorce is real. Okay, it's not negotiable. We are done with the Democratic Party. Anybody that wants to rock with that party, you're going to be deemed guilty by association. Because like I said, I have conversations with people. I take my own litmus test. I'm a communicator. I talk to people in the grocery store, in the banks, in the community, at the churches. We have sidebar conversations. And when I basically said, how do you feel about a 36-year-old Marxist socialist Muslim running and being the mayor of New York? And they just dropped their head like, I know. And then I say, you voted yes for Prop 50, right? And I say, why did you do that? Because that's what they told us to do. Not knowing that they was going to draw the map so crazy that it's not even any red on the map from the Northern California all the way to Mexico. Coastline, some of the richest, influential, blue cities and conservative cities, from Ventura County to Thousand Oaks to South Orange County to Huntington Beach, Laguna Niguel, and then the South Orange County cities and coastal cities. These cities have been drawn out the map, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the map that they're trying to present basically only have approximately 4 Republican districts in one of the largest states in the country. And they say that's because of what Texas did. Okay, that's fine and all, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. So you have basically activated, and every action gets a reaction. So the reaction to that is the red states are going to redraw their maps. And then I say when it comes to vote again, that the representation is going to be so heavily Republican, because you guys are going to figure out that socialism doesn't work, Marxism doesn't work, which is a form of socialism, and it's all leading the way to communism. And then now, as a Christian nation, that they're going to start paying attention, and the Muslims are the ones next. It's not black Americans. It's not even Nation of Islam Muslims. It's the Sharia, Orthodox, Arabs, these guys who's basically trying to take over the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. And it was Benjamin Franklin in 1776. This is a republic if we can keep it. And the only way it's going to continue to be a republic is if we continue to be a Christian nation and separate ourselves. And like I said, if you did not know, the divorce is final. There's no negotiations. And the only negotiation that we're going to have is compensation from an alimony perspective, because we didn't, ask to come here. We didn't ask to be Democrats. It was forced upon us. And the only race on this planet, or the only ethnicity on this planet to be legalized slaves in this country, is Black America. So that foundation is real. So now the foundation is solidified. Now it's time for us to do like the Muslim communities. We don't have to build more churches. We just got to fill them up more. We don't have to do anything but, what God has ordained us to do. And that's to look out for the least of these, look out for our people, and love God with our heart, mind, and our soul. Secondly, love our neighbors. We love ourselves, because sandwiched in between first and second, if you love God, you automatically love yourself. Because if you have love for God, you're not going to commit suicide. you're going to struggle, with sin, meaning we're all sinners. But you're just not going to just sin willingly. Only an individual that don't love God or believe God or is suicidal will get out there and just do what they want to do, with no conscience. Okay. Because like I said, I'm sure I'm not the only one that struggle with a lot of things, but there are certain things that I won't do that I used to do. And I'm a work in progress like everybody else. So the divorce is final, no negotiations. The divorce is real. The only conversation that we're going to have is, compensation from an alimony perspective. And that's for the foundation, no Black Americans. Okay. And it's official that this shutdown is clearly the Schumer shutdown, because in that 60-40 vote last night, Schumer basically read a script that was actually given to him. And he said he will not be voting for it because he's afraid of the far left. He's afraid of the AOCs. He's afraid of the mayor of New York. And if you're talking about being a king, that's the king of the party right there. And if you want to kiss the ring, he wear 2 rings on his right hand, and those rings, I guarantee you, are symbolic. What I'm saying? But it reminds me of, pimping, reminds me of being a player, but he's a liar. He's a cheat. He's a deceiver. And that's basically the definition of a politician who really have no conscience. So slavery is over because Black America finally has accepted, the truth of the party. It's fact. It's non-debatable. It's not a theory. It's a theorem. The Democratic Party is the party of slavery. They've fought to preserve slavery. The Republican Party challenged them and they went to war because the Democrats wanted to expand slavery in the Nebraska-Kansas Act. So basically they want to expand slavery. So let's shut it all down. Went to war. And the only way that the Union won the war is through the Emancipation Proclamation and the enlisting of approximately 300,000 newly freed slaves, which defeated the Democratic Dixiecratic South. But assassin's bullet, it is what it is, and Andrew Johnson, pulled the federal troops out of the South. And during the Reconstruction period, they put the Vagrancy Act of 1866, meaning that ball and chain on the ankle. So if you was a newly freed slave and, you appeared to be wandering, looking for misplaced loved ones and all of that, you was deemed a vagrant and you was forced to do involuntary servitude. And to make that make sense, in Proposition 6 in the state of California, we voted to keep involuntary servitude, meaning in the state of California, we voted to keep slavery legal because there's no way you could pay out any compensation to some slaves. Because first of all, you got to free them from a constitutional perspective. And what Gavin Newsom did is pretty much, stole all the money and basically gave us a formal apology. And I'm sitting back saying, that's not going to happen. So we are watching something, history. This is not his story. It's just our story. And we got to document it because it's going down the way that it is. And civil rights was specifically for the Negro. What happened? The Democratic Party made sure that didn't happen. Okay, think about that. Okay, and then the Black family busted the Black family up. Do not promote man and woman. Do not promote the Black nuclear family. We promote everything under the sun, but Blacks having babies. When I was growing up, families would get together. We had big old family reunions and all of that. And now I'm sitting back saying, wow. You got to go to the South if you want that. But out here, it's like it's going away. But all we need is a few good men and women to hold it down. And we're going to call that the remnant because we're going to make that happen. Because I have a desire, during the Olympics to, be on this Vermont corridor up the street, entertainment, sports bars, good food, a good vibe, something that, we can actually pass over to our children's children, because wise men and wise women leave an inheritance to their children's children. And it's crazy that this party, 94 crime bill, Hillary Clinton called us super predators. Told her we need to be brought to heel like dogs. Joe Biden, the formerly president, the most incompetent president in American history, basically, promoted the bill in the Senate and it passed 94-6. And all Republicans voted for it, and 6 Democrats decided not to vote for it. Just like with the Civil Rights Acts and the Voting Rights Acts. The Voting Rights Acts, 92% Republicans voted for that. The Democrats was the ones trying to block it. So just think about that. So the jig is up, and we have figured it out. So we're declaring our independence. And now we know why they killed Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was a blessing from God, and Mom Donnie is the replacement, because the devil's mission is still kill and destroy. So he was all in it, but now they're giving us a communist, socialist, Marxist, and they're expecting them to just watch the party, because the American Communist Party, they don't like Democrats. Okay, the Arabs, they don't like Democrats, but they say the Democrats are dumb, and they'll be willing to do anything, and they'll burn a whole house down just because their feet got cold. So with that being said, man, I'm quick with it today, just 30 minutes, and I'm go ahead and chop this up so you guys enjoy the reels as I upload. But hit the like, hit the notification, hit the subscription, because it helps the algorithm. And like I said, I got the blueprint from the top for the repeal and the replacement of Obamacare, because here on the Better Black America TV, we seek solutions and resolutions to create a better world. And with that being said, have an amazing day. I'm your man, Bouchon Glover, signing out. A Better Black America TV on YouTube, a Better Black America talk radio show. Have a great day.